We're talking WWE. As Hulk Hogan's nephew, I have to speak out about the situation. Some big things are going on in the WWE. A lot of people are happy, a lot of people are complaining. We're going to get into all that. Specifically, the most important story of the night is Brock Lesnar versus Femi. I'm going to give you an insider's look as someone who grew up in a pro wrestling family as to what's happening, what should happen, what could happen. We're going to get into all of that. My name is King David MMA. I'll be your host for the evening. I'm a professional MMA champion, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. I coach and I teach. I coach and I train at Extreme Couture, the greatest gym on the planet. And my uncle was Hulk Hogan, so I have a little bit insider information as to pro wrestling. Also, guys, man, I want to shout you guys out. Shout out to everybody who subscribed to the channel. Just the other day, I was like, hey guys, the channel's at like 86 subscribers. Hop on the channel before we hit the 111 club. That's 111 subscribers. Guess what, guys? We're at like 570 subscribers now. You know what I mean? You guys are absolutely crushing it. Shout out to you, man. I appreciate you guys. Thank you. And shout out to everybody who has notifications on, because it makes it so much more fun when you guys get the notifications and then you hop on the live with me. So, we're really out here, guys. All right. So we have Brock versus Oba. I want to talk about that. Eric Bischoff's podcast, 83 Weeks, has been addressing a couple of these topics. He was talking about my uncle. He was talking about Vince McMahon. He's got a lot of takes. I'm going to get into all that. We're going to talk about Bischoff and his behind the scenes take on things. Also, Danhausen. Danhausen absolutely has the it factor, man. What they should do with him. I have some fucking crazy ass ideas for Danhausen, man. And my buddy actually was one of the Minihausens. My buddy Ryder, he is a person who's not as tall, and he was one of the Minihausens. So I have some insider intel on that, guys. We're gonna drop it all tonight on the pod. Plus, I'm gonna talk about how Danhausen's current presence, his current gimmick, his current rise to fame it's got some ties to my uncle. All right. Plus, yeah, man. It also ties into some MMA storylines that are happening right now. We're gonna get into all that. We're gonna mix it up tonight. Guys, I'm gonna check the chat real quick. Arpon the Dawn, the moderator in charge, says real ones in the chat. We got the real one shirts for you. I just dropped them. If you want to cop one, go ahead, right? We make them for you guys, right? And then also make sure you follow Fight Circus. If you like pro wrestling, if you like MMA, if you like freak show fights, Fight Circus go to their Instagram at Fight Circus. It's fucking crazy, guys. I pro wrestled for them. I was at one point a pimp with a heart of gold on there, and my name on Fight Circus was Dong Master 3000. You know what I'm saying, baby? We really out here. And I modeled the character. I gave him a lisp and blonde hair after Dusty Rhodes. So what the craziest part is, like, a lot of the top wrestlers all came to the same conclusion, and they all took pieces from Dusty Rhodes. So Dusty Rhodes is like your favorite wrestler's favorite wrestler. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that my uncle modeled some of his stuff after Dusty Rhodes. Like Ric Flair modeled his stuff. Like a lot of people modeled their stuff. And so when I didn't even realize this when I went out as Dong Master, I was like, you know what would be dope? Kind of like pay like homage to Dusty Rhodes, like a real throwback, like a real pro wrestling throwback. And only real ones would know. Only insiders would, like, if you're a WWE head, you could see the throwback. But if you weren't, you would just think, oh, this is a silly ass pimp with a heart of gold. But like real WWE fans would get what I'm saying, right? Because baby, I'm just talking with a lisp, baby. We're really out here. And then I started doing alliteration, So you little dumb down dweeble door dumbbell, you know what I mean? And so that was the character of Fight Circus. I pro wrestled someone who was 2'8" to 3'2" in that area. He's about a 3-footer. I pro wrestled him. Super viral dude, super viral. His name's D-Lo. He's Kick streaming now as well. So check out D-Lo on Kick. But Speaking of pro wrestling, guys. Speaking of pro wrestling, we got Brock Lesnar coming back, and he got his vengeance against Femi. All right, so we're gonna break it down. Let me take a sip of this caffeinated beverage. This one is fucking perfect right now. I just got it out of the freezer. It was like the perfect time where it was almost frozen, and then it was like a slushy. And man, I copped 2 energy drinks on the way back from the gym. After the energy drink, I caffeinated in the morning and then I caffeinated in the afternoon, and now we're getting like a smooth maintenance level caffeine for the rest of the night. All right, so Brock Lesnar versus Femi. So first of all, let's rewind to their first match, okay? Where that was essentially a squash match. And here's what I mean. So in pro wrestling, if there are two people competing, the person that wins can still make the other person look good if the other person's moves look like they hurt, or if the other person's finisher is super damaging. So, just in pro wrestling, oftentimes, if you want to build a character, if he hits his finisher, he wins. Then later, right, as you're trying to transition out of that character into somebody else to take the spotlight, whether that guy needs to take a break or a vacation or he's injured or he's leaving the sport, contract negotiations, whatever, then it's shocking when his finisher doesn't work. So if you wanted to keep Brock's superpowers alive, when he goes against Oba's a huge, big dude, but you would have his moves and his finishers. Even if he doesn't finish him, it would still be like super damaging. Like, man, he barely got out of there. Or you would have it with some form of interference. So that way, if Brock lost, they could have a rematch, but it would still be like who would actually win. Now, because Brock didn't have any real damaging offense that like his finishers weren't really stunning Oba. You know what I mean? Like, so the reason why I'm bringing this up is because Brock retired at the end of that match. He looked like he was emotional. Those feelings looked genuine, and he retired in the center of the ring. Okay. I believe he retired because he was frustrated. He didn't want to go out there and have a squat. He would have done the job, which is losing to the new guy, which Oba, in relation to Brock, would be considered the new guy that's on the rise. So he'll go do the job. He'll pass the torch. If you guys think this is the guy, then I guess you're running with this guy. Brock's gonna sing his swan song. But the way that they did it, where it was essentially a squash match, it's like, Brock, man, after all these years, that's all the respect that you get is just get squashed on your like he probably thought, man, you know what? I didn't tell anybody, but this is what they see me as. They see me as a fucking jobber to this guy who just comes out here and gets squashed. Fuck it, I'm done, man. I'm not respected here. My time it's past. They don't want to write me in the storylines correctly. They're not even respect. That's what it looked like to me as Hulk Hogan's nephew who's grown up pro wrestling. I got multiple. My brother's Horace Hogan from the WWE. You know what I mean? So that's what it looked like to me. Now, Brock comes back, right? But they didn't really like build it out. There's no like, oh, I couldn't have my last match go down like that. Okay, I mean, I guess if that's the reason he's back, but like, then why did you retire? Like, it kind of doesn't make sense, right? So there's no explanation for it. And if the explanation is like, well, we don't need an explanation, right? Who cares? And this is what Eric Bischoff was really getting at in his podcast was like, then why would we care? Okay. And it's like, yeah, give us a reason to care, right? And if you don't care enough to give us a reason, then why would we care? So now this is what's happening in the WWE. It's like they got these ads running, they got like dudes running in with DoorDash and shit, which get money, I guess, right? But if you make the product less watchable and you focus less on viable storylines that adhere to the rules of pro wrestling that have been built over fucking the last 100 years, there's a reason why Vince did things in a certain way. There's a reason why, if you want to build somebody up, it's better to make the person they're beating look good, because then they beat a guy who's got devastating moves. But if the finishers don't hurt, then it's like, oh, well, then we've just been watching this dude for the last 10, 20 years, and he can't even finish this guy. Like, his finishers don't work. But then bring him back, and it's like, what are we doing, guys? What are we doing? Bring him back without a really solid like build up, a storyline, none of that. So now the question is there going to be a trilogy? Who the fuck knows, right? Who the fuck knows? There probably will be, but I think what happened is that Brock was like, fuck it, I'm done. In the moment, he was going to retire. Then something happened, let's say backstage, where they're like, hey, man, you're in breach of contract. We're not going to pay you the remaining if you actually retire. Or there might be legal lawsuits, or he might have just went in the back and they're like, no, don't retire. We'll let you get a dub, and then we'll have a trilogy and we'll make a storyline. We're sorry. It could have been anything like that, which is cool. I want to see Brock Lesnar respected. He's done a lot for the sport of sports entertainment, and I want to see Oba do well too. The big guy, like bright future, good, all that. But that's what leads me into Danhausen. Okay, because Danhausen is not a big guy. Danhausen, for a lot of people, doesn't look the part. But Danhausen has it. He's got some of what my uncle got, which is the understanding that there's like what happens in the match, and there's everything surrounding what happens in the match. So I watched a reel with Chris Jericho, and Chris Jericho was talking about that he thought my uncle Hulk Hogan was a better worker than Ric Flair, which, like, in terms of what's the cool thing to say, that's not the cool thing to say. But he was keeping it real. He's like, hey, when I was in there with Hulk, whether he was babyface, a good guy, or if he was Hollywood Hogan, the heel, the bad guy, he knew exactly what he could read the crowd, give the crowd what they wanted. It wasn't necessarily about him. He was reading the crowd, if that makes any sense. He wasn't doing too much. He wasn't trying to do this move because that's the move that makes that he's like, it was like the crowd's feeling this way, I'm going to do this. The crowd's feeling that way, I'm going to let my opponent do that. Right? So there's an art to it. And so when he was saying that he would rather work with my uncle, that's a great compliment. That's a huge compliment, especially in a time when it's not trendy to say that, because a lot of the pro wrestlers want to be like pro wrestling purists and go like, oh, in ring work, this guy did these crazy matches with like a lot of stuff going on. But sometimes less is more, right? So Danhausen doesn't fucking really like he would not be considered your traditional pro wrestler. He's doing a lot of accessory type shit. You know what I mean? So I think it's fucking fascinating that Danhausen has become the number one merchandise seller in the WWE very quickly. And uh, he isn't wrestling or hasn't been in the WWE as long as pretty much anybody else. So he's quickly approaching like I believe the number one merch seller was Stone Cold at his prime. And like Danhausen is allegedly like on a trajectory to like meet or surpass those numbers quickly, which is fucking nuts. So Danhausen understands that it's about eliciting emotions. It's about connecting with the audience. It's giving them something that they can feel, right? And these are all like fluffier words, as opposed to like, that guy's got good moves. He's got technical body slams. He's got a Hurricane Rana. He can do a moonsault off the top rope, right? But like, what is the moonsault if the moonsault isn't in context, right? We wouldn't just tune in to see guys jumping off the rope. You need context. So the context is the storyline. The storyline is what they have not really built, in my opinion, properly for Brock versus Oba. And they could do a lot, right? Like, so the whole reason I'm talking about this right now is because I would absolutely love to see them play up Danhausen as more of not even a wrestler, as like a, and when I say this, I'm going to say tag team partner, but he doesn't wrestle as much, right? Or as a manager or as a best friend. If you guys remember back, or you can Google it, like watch the old clips or go on Netflix and watch whatever you can find. The Rock and Sock connection with uh, Dwayne the Rock Johnson and Mick Foley as Mankind, when Mankind had a sock puppet on his hand called Socko. Socko! And he would do the mandible claw with a sock puppet, right? So he would put the sock in somebody's mouth, and he was, putting a death touch on their mandible. And so the Rock and Sock connection became one of the biggest, maybe even the biggest tag team of the time. It was like incredible. I'm talking the loudest ovations. And the coldest part was this: they would cheer the loudest, not from when The Rock stood there, flexing, looking out people's eyebrow, not that. Now, when he got on the mic and was the most electrifying man in sports entertainment history, not when he said, a piece of that poontang pie, not that. It was when Mankind would go into his like junk and pull out the sock. Sucko! And the fucking crowd would go nuts. And now, if I were to tell you before that happened that a chubby, out of shape Mankind in like Mankind outfit, you know what I mean, with a fucking sock puppet was gonna get the loudest pop, the loudest cheers, the loudest response out of anybody, they would go like, "What? You're pulling a sock puppet?" But it's not a Hurricane Rana. It's not a belly to back suplex. It's like, dude, listen, this is what the crowd connects with. So Danhausen has like that Mankind sock puppet vibe to him, which I say is in the line of Hulk Hogan, because it would frustrate some of the more like traditional wrestlers when my uncle would get in there and he'd look at the crowd and you know what I mean? Like, well, and it's like he's just looking at the crowd. He hasn't even done a move and they're cheering. It's like, yeah, bro, that's the game. Right. So I'm big on like, we got to understand the game we're operating in. We got to understand the game we're playing in. And oftentimes the rule set that most people are operating in like is like this, but the available rule set is way, way expanded. So Danhausen is playing way outside of the traditional rule set. I would like to see him do like a run with like, let's say Brock, because we're talking about Brock versus Oba, right? And I mean WWE's got a lot of shit that I mean, fuck, dude. I hope these ads don't crush the business, and I would like to see them kind of get rid of the ads personally. Like maybe we can find another way to monetize. It doesn't have to be fucking blatant fucking products. Um, you know, I'm not a guy that's big into, blatant product promotion or anything like that. I'm not saying go buy this shirt right now. I'm not saying I'm going to interrupt what I'm doing to talk about merchandise, you know. I'm just saying that I'm bringing it up casually, and it's got nothing, I mean, they just wanted some DoorDash guys, maybe just buy a real one shirt, okay? Totally just, I mean, yeah, just buy a couple real one shirts, guys. We're just product placement. It's totally natural. It's natural, guys. Now you get what I'm saying, right? Like, at least at the beginning of the stream, I'm like, hey guys, buy a real one shirt. Okay, cool, boom. I'm trying to be like the most sponsored MMA fucking influencer on the planet. So I'm very clear in what I'm doing. Whereas like they're like trying to act like, you know, they're just hanging out in the back and they ordered DoorDash before their match. Like, oh, hey, nobody's gonna notice this fucking blatant advertisement. So they got to get rid of that shit. But yeah, so I would like to see Danhausen team up with Brock, right? And then, like, even if Brock was gonna trilogy Oba, they could do more matches, right? They could do fucking 12 matches. But like Danhausen curses Oba, right? And so Brock's gonna beat him no matter what. But then like it gets to the point where Danhausen starts trying to like almost control Brock Lesnar. Hey, I'm gonna release the curse unless you do da da da, unless you order DoorDash, right? So now Danhausen's in control because he's controlling the curses, so he can get the two biggest, physically most impressive guys, and he can now start having them like almost battle for his support because he's got the curse ability, right? Like they could do that. I also before Logan, I think Logan tore his tricep off the bone. Logan Paul, he before he did that, I believe um it would have been cool to see Danhausen have Minihausen, and then Logan Paul goes and recruits a mini Logan. You know what I mean? And so I was telling my buddy Ryder, I was like, bro, maybe you could be mini Logan. Like, go pitch that to Logan. You get what I'm saying? Because, like, I find that to be interesting. But right now, the biggest storyline, I feel the best way to use Danhausen would be to have him team up with like huge giants, in this case, Brock and Oba, and like have them almost battling for his management or his um connection. Like they want to use the curse to go make their plays, but they have to like get him whatever. Then now, guys, so there was this fucking show back in the day before all there was YouTube and Kick. Back in the day, back in my day, when there was this thing called television, right? We had a show. It was called Making the Band, and a dude named Diddy, no Diddy, but real Diddy, but like that Diddy, right? Like that Diddy. He would send rappers out to go on like, y'all got to give me some cheesecake. I need y'all to walk to New Jersey and give me a cheesecake, right? And so then Dave Chappelle, who's a comedian, or was or whatever, right? So I mean, his latest shit is kind of like not funny to me, you know. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But back in the day, he was a comedian, and he he would do a Diddy impression where he's like, I need y'all to go to Brooklyn and give me some Cambodian breast milk, you know? And that was like the whole. So now Danhausen could, like, if you think about it, take almost like the Dave Chappelle Diddy angle of like making the band and making the band mockery. And he could have these dudes going to do chores for him, do his laundry, hey, yeah, that's cool that you want me to curse Oba, Brock, but I really need you to go get my dry cleaning. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, I'm just fucking freestyling here, guys, just brainstorming with you. So let me check the chat real quick. We got John Dong in the chat. Hey, bro, man, you never won the t-shirt. It's all good, bro. I know a lot of people have an issue because the shirt's got the cash app and the mugshots on the back. So yeah, totally cool. But yeah, man, appreciate you. John Dong was the first super liker on the channel. Super likes and super chats are enabled. So he was the first one to hit it. We got Lika in the chat. Love the faith over fear shirt. Yeah, let's freaking go. Faith over fear. You know, it's a good motto, right? It's a very, very good motto. All right. And so when we're talking Danhausen, we're talking Brock, we're talking Oba. Can you see the difference between having someone who has some form of charisma and connection, you know, with the crowd versus they're just throwing these guys in a rematch just to do it? Even though Brock has a history with the crowd, like we need a reason. We need a reason why. What's at risk? Why should we care? And so when I talk to the little homies on the team, like the amateur fighters and the up and coming aspiring fighters at Extreme, or even when I'm talking to some of the pros that are a little bit more open to like, hey man, how could I go viral? How could I increase my value to the promotion that I fight for? The most important thing is like, what's on the line? What's at risk? What does this mean? Right? Why are you fighting? Why this guy? And if you can do that, or like, why you? Why should they watch you? What are you? What do you have? Right? And so when they're able to do that, then it matters. Which was the problem with the Ronda versus Gina Carano fight, was they both like said, hey, it doesn't matter. We're going to be friends after. And we really just, whatever the outcome is, we're going to be happy either way. We don't care what happens. We're going to be happy. So then why would we care? Why would we care? I was also telling some of the guys on the team about a concept. It's from The Art of War by Sun Tzu. And it essentially says, so when we're talking about the game, that like this is the rules everybody plays under, but there's all these other possibilities, right? These are the set of techniques everybody knows. These are the set of techniques that could exist if we could discover them or invent them or realize them. They all actually exist. We might just not be aware of them, right? So one thing that Sun Tzu talks about is that if you want to guarantee victory, attack where your enemy is defenseless, right? Because if you attack their defense, well, then they can fight back. But if you attack where they're not, where they have no defense, well, then that's a dub, right? So a lot of fighters will go, but like this person's going to defend themselves. What do you mean? But there's openings that people don't see, right? So if we're here, this is a punch, but it's also an opening, right? So he's swinging at me. No, he's opening up so you can strike. He's defenseless here, right? So this is everywhere at all times. This is a way to protect yourself from someone getting some kind of connection with your body. But like if you are shrimping out, you've now given them the ability to control the inside position. So you don't have a line of defense right here. And now they can take control of that. Right. So this is everywhere at all times, but it's everywhere in life. So there's like all of these unwritten rules that everybody is adhering to, even with speech, right? There's something called the Overton window, which is the window of acceptable speech that everybody operates within. And then these guys are going viral right now because they're operating outside of that window. They're saying things that are kind of wild or doing things on stream that are kind of wild. But other people have never done them because they were like, oh, you can't do that, or you can't go there, or you can't say that, or you can't, right? Like, or can you? Right? We don't know. We don't know where the boundaries are. We don't know what the rules of the game are. We don't know what reality actually is. So as we're sitting here right now, we actually don't know what's possible. We're even limited by our five senses. There's ultraviolet light. There's shit. I mean, and there's stuff outside of the spectrum of ultra. You get what I'm saying, right? Like, let's say we had infrared goggles on, we would see things differently. If we could detect heat with our eyes, we could see things differently. If we had sonar, we would have a different sense of perception. But all this shit exists around us at all times, right? So we don't actually know what the fuck's going on. So let's say, and I like to talk about ants, because an ant doesn't have the same type of brain processing or sensory ability that we do. So if we approach an ant can't even fucking understand what we are. It has a very limited scope. It's like shadow approaching, got squished. That's it. Right? Like shadow approached and got squished. And if the squishing didn't actually squish it, it might think that we're like a god or something. So the same thing that we might not understand because we don't have the senses, the sensory receptors, right? This applies to fucking, it's so crazy. It fucking applies to everything, right? Like Where's the opportunity that we're not seeing? What is the question that we're not asking? What is the behavior that could be motivating this that I have a bias and I think it's something else? So, right now we've got Sean Strickland in the news. He's speaking out as to why he's not allowed at the White House. People are saying that the president has a certain agenda and Strickland is not in alignment with that agenda. But the president might have different information than Strickland has because Strickland recently got new information. So he's disagreeing with Strickland from a year ago, where Strickland from a year ago sounded like Justin Gaethje right now. But now Strickland from a year ago sounds like this dude Jake, but who the fuck knows? They're talking about aliens are going to get the United States government is aware of 4 types of aliens. Okay, so I'm supposed to believe that there's aliens, right? That they said didn't exist. Never. No, there's no such thing as Area 51. No, come on, bro. But now I'm supposed to believe that. But at the same time, I'm also supposed to believe that I have all the information about what the fucking governments are really doing with each other, what the actual agendas are, who's actually in charge. Oh, that guy's controlling that guy. Bro, how do I know there's not a fucking reptilian alien controlling both of them? Or not, or whatever, or anything. And I'm not saying any of that, right? I'm not saying any of that. All I'm saying is that I don't know shit. There's a way to win a fight, and I've done this like 9 times, which is if so I got a pro MMA title at 44 years old doing this. Okay, let's say my takedowns are a 9, but my opponent's takedown defense is a 10. So even though my best thing is takedowns, he's got better takedown defense than I have takedowns. Okay. Now let's say my striking's an 8 and his is a 5 or a 6. Well, mathematically, I would win the striking, but my striking isn't my favorite thing because I'm a wrestler. So I put myself in the box of wrestler, but he's got better takedown defense than I have offensive wrestling. Even though my offensive wrestling is better than fucking anybody, he's got the magic formula to stop it, right? So then how would I beat him? It's like strike with the guy, bro. You have better striking. I know, man, but my wrestling's better than my striking. What the fuck does that have to do with what he's weak at? Right? But a lot of people can't even see that. Right? And then I'm able to go out 9 times out of 10, make it look like magic. Like, what the fuck happened? And it's like, well, I'm assessing. And this goes back to The Art of War by Sun Tzu. He wrote it, a fucking 1,000 years ago. We can all read it. We have access to the book. People quote it. And it's like, maybe we should go do that. And it's like, know yourself, you'll win half your battles. Know your enemy, you'll win the other half type shit. Right? Half of it is knowing them. And then it's knowing me, and then it's like, what's the difference between us? And then we get into the idea of where are they weak, right? Where do they not have defense? And then that gets into the theory of if I were the first person in history to ever learn jujitsu, let's say Hoist Gracie almost, right? He could go in there and beat up dudes because they have no fucking knowledge of what he's doing to them. They don't have the tools to do it or to defend it. So, as tough as they are, as many years as they trained, in this realm, they're fucking brand new beginner baby white belts. So let me ask you this. If you were to go get into a fight, where do you have an elite skill set where your opponent is a white belt? And how can you get them to get to that position with you? How can you bait them into that type of exchange? Maybe you have some technique that's outside of the box of, hey, box and wrestle and throw leg kicks. You know what I mean? And if you're on bottom, wrestle up. So everybody would say wrestle up. And then here I am submitting dudes from guard. And it's like, well, why am I able to submit dudes from guard? Because everybody's telling me, and I broke a guy's arm and then he went and fought in the UFC shortly thereafter. So these aren't just And I'll beat up some scrubs. Don't get me wrong. I'm not above that, right? Let's pad the record. Let's go. But at the same time, I've also beat up very high level dudes. So how am I able to possibly do that? I'm a dude. I'm a fucking dude. I was a baby. I didn't know martial arts. I learned it the same way anyone else could learn it. Well, I'm just going, hey, where does this person not have strong defense? And where do I have a strong skill set? And which two of those areas match up? Okay, well, I've got good takedowns, but he's got really good takedown defense. Okay, I'm not going to wrestle with him. Okay, I have better striking than him, and he's got good wrestling. So if I kick him hard enough, I'm going to bet 9 times out of 10 he's going to shoot on me, right? And then I can just put him into positions where that he's never seen before, and then submit him. And then it looks like fucking magic, right? But like, where can we apply this in all of our lives? Like, where? There's opportunity everywhere. Anyways, guys, I believe in the goodness of the future. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We got 100 100. Oh no, it's not that. It's just I only donate $1 and it's expensive to ship stuff nowadays, bro. But that's the point, dog. You know what I'm saying? That's the point. You were the first one. And I'm like, let me ship you something, bro. It's up to you. But anyways, if you want to hit me up on Instagram, King David MMA, I'm gonna ship it out to you. Hey, and I appreciate you supporting the stream 100 100. John Hogan in the chat. Hey everyone. Hi John. We only use 10% of the brain's capacity, if that. Bars. Spitting bars. Yeah, alien emoji. I've heard that's actually a myth. We use all of our brains, just the different parts activated at different times, just like how traffic light uses all of its lights. Each one is just turned off at different times. Hey, so here's what I will say to that. We don't even know what we are. We don't even know what we are. And you're like, well, I'm a fucking human male, or what? Like, what the fuck? What does that mean? Well, I'm a biological entity. And what does that mean? Well, I'm kind of like an animal that's smart and self-aware. Okay, what is self-aware? Well, I can talk to myself in my head and I know I'm here. Okay, who's talking? Well, I have these thoughts. Well, are you actually thinking them or are they just popping into your brain from somewhere else? I've never thought about that. Okay, cool. Well, hypothetically, if we were to do a thought experiment and your brain was actually a receiver and you weren't the one creating the thought, you were the one receiving the thought, then one could speculate hypothetically that maybe you're the observer of your thoughts, which goes into like meditative practices, right? So just hypothetically, if we're to play along with the scenario, well, then what would that mean? Well, then that means that my like consciousness would be different than my thoughts, right? And then it's like, okay, then where's your consciousness located? You know what I mean? And then like, okay, let's just pretend like consciousness in the brain. Good. Okay, what's your brain made of? Well, it's mostly water. Okay, so you're conscious water? Well, I mean, water is like H2O. Okay, and what's H2O made of? Well, it's made of a fucking, you know, atoms. Oh, okay. What are atoms made of? Well, atoms are made of subatomic particles. Okay, and what are subatomic particles made of? Well, at the core, they're actually just vibrations of energy. Okay, cool. And how much of that is in the actual atom as opposed to empty space? Well, there's actually like 99,000 times more empty space in an atom than there is actual atom. And the actual atom that's in there is just a vibration of an energy wave, right? Okay, cool. So you're saying you're a conscious energy field? Well, yeah. Okay, cool, bro. And what's everything around you? Well, that's another energy field. Okay, so you're a conscious energy field operating in another conscious energy field, right? And you only believe you exist because you have 5 senses that make you perceive you're in physical form. But we just agreed that we can't sense everything that's out there, right? Because we have a limited spectrum of light. We have a limited spectrum of hearing. We don't have sonar. We don't like, there's all kinds of shit. And that's just shit that we know of. Imagine all the shit we don't know of, right? So we're not actually able to perceive reality accurately. The same way an ant can't perceive us, we can't perceive what the fuck's going on. It's like going on your fucking laptop, right? And there's a little blue envelope or something. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, tap on this. Oh, that's my mail, right? There's no actual fucking physical paper there's no blue envelope in your fucking laptop. That doesn't exist. It's an icon. Okay, for us to understand the ones and zeros that the computer is processing to put that icon up there is the same way that our eyes are processing what's in front of us as a visual stimulation, because we can't process every photon that's coming at us at the same time. The same way that if I touch this, right, I believe it's physical, right, but I can't actually process the fucking particles spinning. Like our brains can't process it all. So there's like this consciousness this is observing our thoughts, right? I don't even believe I'm saying this right now. This is just happening through me, by the way. And we have a consciousness that's an observer observing thought in a energy field that seems physical because we have five senses, and it's sort of like an icon on a computer. That's what we're going through, right? So how much of our mind do we use? I don't know. Am I the consciousness or am I the physical mind? Am I the thought or am I the observer of the thought? This is, bro, like, you guys see what I'm saying? I sit in the backyard and I meditate and I believe God wants us to win. I believe God created us in the image of the Almighty above, and we are all divine creations of a powerful universe and loving God above. So when you tell me so and so controls so and that, bro, you're talking about the physical world, bro. You're talking about setting our energy to a vibrational frequency that we don't even want to align with. What are we doing here, bro? Like, come on. You get what I'm saying? So, oftentimes, dude, King David, man, why don't you get political on your channel? It's important to talk. Bo, I don't know what the fuck's going on. I don't even know what I am. I can feel that I am something more than my physical body. I believe we are all here as a fucking consciousness, a spiritual entity that is experiencing itself physically. I believe that we can both be separate as individuals, right? But we could all be a collective consciousness as well. That's the same observer observing itself through billions of individuals that are all disconnected but all connected at the same time. You get what, like, and now we're talking about how much of our physical minds we use. Dude, I don't even know if I'm using my physical mind or if there's some fucking entity channeling through me, and that sounds bizarre, right? But I don't can prove I exist. Can anybody prove I exist? I'll wait. Are we in a simulation right now? Some people say we are. Some people say we're spiritual beings experiencing a physical reality. Some people say there's an ice wall. Some people say that we're on a globe spinning fucking 16,000 miles an hour through space at fucking another 100,000 miles an hour around a fucking sun that's a million times bigger than us, that fucking has a light angle that looks like it's 93,000 miles away when it's 93 million miles away. I don't understand any of that. I'm just a dude chilling, feeling good, believing in the brightness of the future, and then we could just spread love to each other. Now, before I get too hippie on you guys, you know what I mean? Let's get back to bouncing people's heads off the mat. Shout out to Brock Lesnar. Shout out to Oba. I hope they have the trilogy. I hope Danhausen gets involved. I hope you get what I'm saying, guys? Let's go. Let me read this freaking chat while I'm bugging the fuck out over here. You know what I mean? And here's the cool part. I'm not bugging out. I'm very fucking clear. You get me? Like, who's the crazy one? You know what I mean? Like, who's the crazy one? The one that thinks it's physical and the fucking blah 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 controls this and that. Bro, 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 we're vibing. You know, I mean, I've heard okay, just like how, but yeah, there are a lot of mysteries regarding the human body, though. It's very interesting to read about. Like, science hasn't explained why we dream, and the science of sleep is also surprisingly unknown. We know that a lack of sleep damages your body, but it's unexplained where the damage stems from. Yes, John Dong, so true. Like, we know that if you don't sleep, it ruins your focus, ruins your skin, damages your heart, etc. But where does all that stem from? I need a blunt for this. Isn't there a philosophical thought experiment called the butterfly dream or something? If you dream that you're a butterfly and wake up, are you a human that was dreaming of being a butterfly? Or were you a butterfly that's now dreaming of being a human? My man spitting bars. Let's go. Dude, I think about that all day long. Not that specific one. That's interesting. That's something that, like, I've heard, not that, but like, more like Alan Watts, where he's like, hey, imagine you were a dreamer and you could dream anything you wanted. And like, you dreamt something tonight, and then tomorrow you dreamt something else, and something else, and something else, and something else. And every time you dream, you would dream 70 to 100 years of a dream. eventually, if you had unlimited dreams, you would dream this reality that you're in right now. Right. And so it's like, that's kind of like, what if there was eternal consciousness that could experience itself in unlimited ways? And it chose as to have like us as its own avatars for like 70 to 100 years on average. Like it, yeah. So the butterfly one's pretty cool. I'm going to think about that a lot because you know, what if the dream state is the real state, right? Like what if this is the dream, and then when we dream, that's the sleep is the real, right? What if we're going into a different, what if there's all this shit going on that we can't even fucking see, and then when we close our eyes and our pineal gland turns on, now we're able to fucking see it, but our bodies have to be borderline frozen in unconsciousness, right? Because what, like, this, now we're getting somewhere, guys. God is good. This is some deep ish. John, on to something. So I like reading about that kind of stuff. Okay. Yes. Yeah. So, we got a little trippy tonight, guys. We got a little trippy, but hey, just know that I believe that there is a God that loves us, that there's a God that created us, that there's a God that believes we can do anything we set our minds to. I love you guys. Appreciate you for subscribing. Have an amazing, amazing night. And, when you dream and you become that butterfly, just realize maybe the butterfly is the one that's dreaming when you wake up. Let's go.